There is a moment every swimmer knows. When the current stops feeling like an enemy. Before that moment, there is only struggle. Arms cutting against water that will not be cut, lungs burning, the shoreline sliding further away with every stroke that was supposed to bring it closer. The body remembers this even if the mind forgets it. Somewhere in the muscles, in the old animal wiring beneath thought, there lives a conviction that survival means fighting. That safety is something you take by force. That the water is a wall to be broken, rather than a language to be understood. And then, sometimes something gives way. Not the water. The swimmer. The arms stop thrashing. The breath stops being a weapon and becomes, instead, an offering. And the strange thing, the thing almost no one believes until they feel it, is that the current, which had seemed like a hostile force, becomes something closer to a hand. Not gentle exactly. Not cruel either. Simply itself. Carrying weight the way it was always going to carry weight, whether resisted or not. Think, too, of a reed standing at the edge of a pond in high wind. A young tree nearby holds its shape stubbornly, trunk rigid, branches locked against the gusts. And eventually, if the wind is strong enough, something in it snaps. The reed does something else entirely. It bends almost to the water, again and again, letting the wind pass through it rather than break against it. And when the storm ends, it is still standing, a little wet, a little bent, but whole. Nothing about the reed's bending looked like strength while it was happening. It looked, if anything, like collapse. Only afterward, when the tree lies broken on the ground and the reed lifts itself back toward the sky, does the truth of it become visible. This is not a story about swimming or about reeds, though it will keep returning to images like these, because the mind seems to understand surrender more easily through the body than through argument. It is a story about the shape of every struggle we carry. With loss, with change, with the people who will not become who we need them to be, with the versions of ourselves that keep insisting on control long after control has stopped being possible. Somewhere inside each of these struggles is a current. And somewhere inside each of us is a swimmer who has forgotten or never learned that fighting is not the only form strength can take. There is an old suspicion many of us carry quietly like a stone in a coat pocket, that softness is defeat, that to yield is to lose, that the ones who stop resisting are the ones who have given up on themselves. It is worth sitting with that suspicion for a moment, turning it over, asking where it came from, because underneath it almost always is fear. Fear that without the fighting, there will be nothing left of us at all. But there is another way to hold this, not as certainty. This is not a claim about how the universe works, only an image worth trying on. In that image, resistance and strength are not the same word wearing different clothes. Resistance is a young strength, a first strength, the one that arrives before we understand what we are up against. And non-resistance, the willingness to stop fighting what cannot be changed and instead meet it exactly as it is something that comes later. Something quieter. Something that does not announce itself with clenched fists. The current does not stop being powerful when the swimmer stops fighting it. If anything, its power becomes clearer, more honest, once the fighting ends. What changes is the swimmer's relationship to that power. From adversary to something almost like a partner. And in that shift, a different kind of strength appears. Not the strength of muscle against water, but the strength of a body that has learned how to be carried without being erased. That is the shape of what we are circling here tonight. Not a technique, not a shortcut. A way of looking at surrender, at yielding, at the old and often misunderstood art of letting reality be exactly what it already is, and finding, somewhere inside that letting go, a strength that resistance could never have reached on its own. Let this be an invitation, not an instruction. A shape to try on, not a truth to accept. Nothing here needs to be taken as the final word on strength, or on surrender, or on how a person ought to move through pain. There are as many ways to hold these questions as there are people asking them, and this is only one path among the many that have been walked before. What follows is one way of walking through it, layer by layer, image by image, toward whatever it is you already quietly know. The first layer is the one we can see. It lives in the body, in posture, in the smallest physical gestures that reveal how a person relates to the world. Watch someone brace against bad news, and you will see the whole architecture of resistance in miniature. Shoulders lifting toward the ears, jaw tightening, breath shortening into something shallow and defensive. The body has already decided that what is coming must be kept out. It does not matter yet whether that thing can truly be kept out. The decision has already been made in the muscles. Now watch someone receive the same news differently. Not with indifference. Indifference is its own kind of armor. But with something closer to opening. The shoulders drop, not from exhaustion but from release. The breath deepens instead of catching. There is often a pause here. A long exhale before any words come. In that pause is the entire art we are speaking of. Not resignation. Reception. There is a particular quality to this kind of unclenching that is worth noticing closely, because it is easy to miss. It does not look like triumph. There is no fanfare in it, no dramatic gesture. Often it looks almost like nothing at all. A slight loosening around the eyes, a chin that stops jutting forward, hands that stop curling into fists without anyone deciding consciously that they should. The nervous system, given the smallest permission, tends to know how to do this on its own. It has been doing it in small ways every single day long before anyone gave it a name. Consider the hands specifically for a moment. How much of the body's resistance lives there? A hand gripping a steering wheel too tightly in traffic that cannot be sped up. A hand clenched around a phone, waiting for news that has already been decided, somewhere before the waiting even began. A hand pressed flat against a chest, holding something in that wants quietly to move. The hands are often the last place resistance lives, and sometimes the first place it can be released, because unlike the heart, unlike the mind, the hands can simply be told to open. And more often than expected, they listen. This is the outer symbol of non-resistance, the body unclenching around whatever cannot be undone. And here the image begins to change form. Because the body is never only the body. It is a map of everything happening beneath it. Beneath the physical posture is a second layer, quieter and harder to name, the layer of story. Every resistance is underneath, a story we are telling ourselves about how things should have gone. The rain should not have come today. The diagnosis should have been different. The person should have stayed, should have loved differently, should have been someone other than exactly who they were. Resistance at this layer is not really a fight against the current. It is a fight against the fact that the current has a direction of its own, one that does not consult us. Some traditions have read this as the root of most human suffering. Not the events themselves, but the war fought against the fact that events are what they are. It is worth sitting with that thought slowly, the way one might sit with a stone found on a beach, turning it, weighing it, without needing to decide immediately whether it is true. What might it mean to lay down not the pain itself, but the argument against the pain being there? There is a particular kind of tiredness that comes from this argument, a tiredness distinct from grief, distinct from loss. It is the tiredness of relitigating what has already happened, of demanding again and again that reality present its case. Non-resistance at this layer is not the absence of feeling. It is the absence of the argument. Grief can still move through a person who has stopped resisting. Anger can still move through them. What softens is the second layer of suffering, the suffering added on top of the original wound by insisting, endlessly, that the wound should not exist. Picture two people standing in the same rain, holding the same lost umbrella between them. One spends the walk narrating the injustice of the weather, replaying the moment the umbrella was forgotten, cataloging every decision that led to this particular soaking. The other simply gets wet. Both arrive home equally damp. Only one of them arrives exhausted. The rain was never the variable. The story told about the rain was. This does not mean the story-making stops entirely. The mind will likely keep doing what minds do, weaving explanation out of experience the way it always has. But there is a difference between a story that is noticed and a story that is believed without question. Somewhere in that noticing, a small space opens up. Just enough room to set the argument down without needing to win it first. And here the image shifts again, moving from story into something even more intimate. The third layer is the one beneath language altogether, the layer of identity. Because often, underneath the resistance to an event, is a resistance to becoming someone new. If the loss is real, then the self that existed before the loss cannot continue unchanged. If the diagnosis is real, the future that was planned around its absence has to be released. Resistance, at its deepest, is sometimes not a fight against the world at all. It is a fight to remain who we were, a refusal to let the self be reshaped by what has happened to it. This is tender ground, and it deserves to be walked slowly. There is nothing weak about wanting to remain intact. But there is a difference between remaining intact and remaining unchanged. One is possible, the other rarely is. The tree that survives the storm is not the tree that refused to bend. It is the tree whose roots held even as its branches moved with the wind. Something in it changed shape. Something in it stayed. Perhaps this is the quiet center of the whole image. Non-resistance is not the loss of self. It is the discovery of which parts of the self were never really under threat in the first place. The branches can bend, break, regrow. The roots do the deeper work, holding on to something that does not require rigidity to survive. There is a kind of person many of us have been at some point, the one holding tightly to an old version of themselves the way a person might hold a photograph of someone who no longer exists. Not out of denial exactly, but out of love or fear or both tangled together. It can take a long time to notice that the tight grip on the photograph is what keeps the hands too full to hold anything new. Loosening that grip does not mean the old self is erased or unloved or forgotten. It only means the hands become free enough to receive whatever is arriving now in its place. This layer is rarely comfortable to sit with, and it does not need to be resolved tonight or ever in any final way. It is enough for now simply to notice it. The quiet resistance underneath the resistance, the fear beneath the fear, the self holding on to its own outline as if the outline were the only thing keeping it real. None of this needs to be believed all at once. It can simply be tried the way one might try standing in water for the first time, curious rather than convinced. What might it feel like to stop bracing against the parts of life that cannot be undone, and instead let them move through you the way water moves through open hands, present, felt, but no longer fought? What follows are a few ways of sitting with this. Not rituals to be performed correctly, not steps towards some guaranteed result, only invitations. Take whichever ones feel useful. Leave the rest. The first is simple. Sit somewhere quiet and place a hand over the chest. Just resting there, feeling the breath rise and fall beneath the palm. Ask gently, not urgently, what am I bracing against right now? Not fixing, not solving. Only noticing where the body has already tightened in anticipation of something it cannot control. The second asks for a small physical experiment. Clench both fists as tightly as possible, holding the tension for several long seconds. And then let them open slowly, finger by finger. Notice the difference between the effort of holding on and the relief of releasing. This is not a metaphor to be forced. It is simply a way of letting the body remember, on its own terms, what non-resistance feels like from the inside. The third is a walk, taken without a destination in mind. Not a walk to somewhere. A walk with no argument to win, no pace to keep, no outcome required. Let the feet decide the rhythm rather than the mind. Somewhere in the absence of a goal, something in the chest tends to loosen. If a direction wants to be chosen, left instead of right, toward the trees instead of the street, let something other than logic choose it. There is a kind of intelligence in unplanned movement that planning tends to quiet. The fourth is a piece of paper and an honest question. What am I still arguing should be different? Write it without editing, without softening it into something more acceptable. Sometimes just seeing the argument written down in plain language is enough to notice how much energy it has quietly been costing. The fifth is older, borrowed loosely from traditions that have long used breath as a way of practicing surrender. Breathe in for a slow count of 4. Hold for 4. Release for a count of 6, letting the exhale be longer than the inhale. As the breath leaves, imagine something being set down rather than pushed away. Not discarded, only placed gently on the ground beside you, still within reach, no longer gripped. The sixth is a question to carry through an ordinary day rather than a formal seated practice. Where today did I meet something as it was instead of insisting it be otherwise? It does not need to be answered perfectly. It only needs to be asked quietly, the way one might check the weather before stepping outside. The seventh, for those who want it, is simply this. Standing outdoors, if possible, and letting the wind touch the skin without adjusting the body against it. No coat pulled tighter. No shoulders raised. Just standing, letting the air move where it moves, noticing what it feels like to be touched by something rather than defended against it. None of these practices are the point in themselves. They are small doors, is all, ways of letting the body arrive at an understanding the mind may still be circling from a distance. None of them need to be done perfectly or daily or in any particular order. Some will feel useful once and never again. Others might become quiet companions, return to without much thought, the way a hand returns to a familiar railing on a dark staircase. There is no ending to offer here, not really, only a place to set this down for now. This has not been an argument that resistance is wrong, or that surrender is always the answer, or that letting go solves what fighting cannot. Some things do need to be fought. Some walls are worth pushing against, right up until they fall. This has only been one way of looking at the other current running beneath all of that effort, the one that moves whether we fight it or not and asks quietly to be met rather than opposed. Maybe strength was never only about how hard a person can push. Maybe some of it was always about how honestly a person can be carried by grief, by change, by the current that does not ask permission before it moves through a life. That is not weakness. It never was. This is only one lens among many, held up to the light for a while and then set back down. Take what is useful. Leave what is not, and the next time something in life refuses to bend to your will, it might be worth pausing just for a breath to ask whether the strength you are reaching for is the strength of the fist or the strength of the open hand.